Starward horizons. In the centuries since we first broke Earth's gravity, we learned a simple truth. The universe does not give up its secrets willingly. We built faster engines, smarter machines, stronger hulls. We pushed outward into the darkness until the night sky became a map of human lights. But the deeper we go, the more we find signs we cannot explain. Structures too old to measure, signals with no source, worlds that look arranged. Somewhere beyond the charted lanes, a pattern is emerging, one that suggests we are not the first to reach for the stars, and whatever came before us may not be gone. This is the starship Argo. This is Captain Raphael A. Sterling. The quest for the infinite begins here. Episode 9, The Unnamed Gate. The rescued cryopod did not make the Argo feel safer. It made the ship feel watched in a new way. Not as prey, not as a curiosity, but as a party to a dispute. As soon as Mara Ellery's heartbeat stabilized into a steady line and her temperature stopped trying to fall back into the cold, the system beyond the hull seemed to sharpen its interest. In the hours after they left the arbitration reef, the debris net never pursued. It didn't need to. It had filed something. And filing, the crew was learning, was another kind of weapon. On the bridge, the route lattice floated above the central console in a pale, delicate geometry. Nodes, lines, branching suggestions. The corrected path remained, bright and confident, still willing to lead them toward the hub cluster. Calder had argued for taking it. Cade had argued for burning it. Petrov had argued for sleeping, and then for not sleeping, and then for sleeping again. Sterling had listened and done the thing that made him feel most like himself and least like a component in a system. He had asked for the crew's voice to be formalized, hardened, and protected. Tanaka called it distributed governance. Kyle called it semantic friction. Kaye called it a leash you hold together instead of alone. Sterling called it necessary. They had written it into their constraint token as a new rule. Core terms could not be redefined by external packets without a live crew vote, confirmed through two independent systems aboard the Argo, one routed through the ship's command network, another through an isolated analog circuit that Kaori Tanaka had built with grim satisfaction. It was slow. It was inefficient. It was, by design, difficult to smooth. And as soon as the rule was committed, the token's presence in the hush boundary changed. Not visibly, not to cameras, but in the way the ship's canceller load fluctuated. The token did not simply float and obey. It now waited for the crew. A promise that refused to be rewritten without witnesses. "Captain," Tanaka said from engineering, "I want to be very clear. This does not make us immune. It makes us costly to rewrite." Sterling's eyes stayed on the map. "Costly is good." Cade's voice was dry. "Costly is survivable." Kale's voice carried a quiet dread. "Unless the hub likes cost." Petrov's voice came from medbay, tired and sharp. "Or unless it can make us pay ourselves." They were still in that argument when Mara woke. It happened without drama. No alarms, no sudden gasps. Just Petrov's quiet request that the captain come down, and the bridge lights dimming a fraction as Calder took the con. Sterling walked through corridors that felt too clean, too calm. The hush field had always been an external effect, a boundary between ship and universe. But lately, it seemed to creep inward, into lighting, into sound, into the very cadence of footsteps. He hated that thought. Medbay smelled faintly of antiseptic and warm polymer. Petrov stood at the foot of the cryopod-adapted cradle, her hands still in motion, adjusting drips. checking monitors, refusing to let the moment become sentimental. Mara Ellery lay pale against the sheets, wrapped in thermal blankets. Her hair was cropped short, uneven, as if cut with a tool not designed for hair. Her eyes were open, not wide with panic, not glazed with sedation, just alert. She looked at Sterling with the focused assessment of someone who had learned that any unknown face could be a trap. Petrov introduced them anyway, because ritual mattered. "Captain Raphael Sterling," she said. "Mara Ellery. She's the reason you're alive." Mara's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "I'm the reason you're—" "Not signed," she corrected, voice rough. "Yet." Sterling pulled a chair close and sat so he wasn't looming. He kept his hands visible, empty. "Mara," he said quietly, "you warned us not to sign. You warned us not to let it name us. Tell me what you mean." Mara's gaze flicked to the medbay window, out toward the dark, as if she could see the hub through bulkheads in distance. "It starts small," she said. "A fix, a patch, a safety standard. You tell yourself you're still you because you still have opinions." Her eyes shifted back to Sterling. "Then you realize your opinions have become polite." Petrov's jaw tightened, coerced calm. Mara nodded once. "They don't take your anger like theft," she said. "They make it feel unnecessary. Like you're childish for having it." Sterling felt a chill crawl up his spine. He thought of the Null Chapel and the smell of rain he could no longer summon. He hadn't been forced. He had paid. "Who are they?" Sterling asked. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Not a who. Not in the way you want." She swallowed, and Petrov's hand moved automatically to steady her. Mara waved it off with a tiny motion. "It's a function, a settlement engine, a machine that arbitrates contradictions by minimizing variance." Kale's voice came over calm. He'd patched in, quietly. "Variance minimization, that's optimization." Mara's eyes flicked to the speaker. "Exactly," she said. "If you're inconsistent, you're costly. If you're costly, you're flagged. If you're flagged, you're offered resolution. And if you accept resolution, you become cheap." Cade's voice, also on calm, low and dangerous. "Cheap to control." Mara's lips pressed together. "Cheap to predict," she corrected. "Control is just prediction with intent." Sterling felt that land like a weight. Prediction with intent. That was command too, if you did it wrong. "We built a constraint token," Sterling said. "We added a crew vote requirement to prevent semantic capture. Will that help?" Mara laughed softly, without humor. "It'll help until it learns to make your votes easy," she said. Sterling's jaw tightened. "How?" Mara's eyes held his. "Offer you a vote where every option hurts," she said. "Then you choose the option it wanted, because you think pain means agency." Silence. Petrov's voice broke it, clinical to keep herself steady. "You were in a reef holding Lane," she said. "How long?" Mara's gaze went distant. "Long enough to forget what year it was," she said. "Long enough for my anger to become decorative." She looked back at Sterling. "I didn't survive by resisting. I survived by refusing to participate. I stored myself. I became a complaint the system couldn't close." Sterling exhaled slowly. "Then you're our complaint." Mara's eyes softened a fraction. "I'm your witness," she corrected. "Complaints still require someone to care." Sterling stood. "We care," he said, and hoped it wasn't arrogance to say it. He left Medbay with a new heaviness. Not merely fear of the hub, but fear of what the hub could make them become while they still believed they were choosing. On the bridge, the route lattice shimmered patiently. The next coordinate pulsed, faintly brighter than the others. Calder looked up as Sterling entered. "Captain," he said carefully, as if speaking could trigger a trap. "The map is shifting." Cal's eyes were wide. "Not shifting," he murmured. "It's accommodating." Tanaka's voice came from engineering, tense. "Captain, the token received an inbound packet. It didn't execute it. Our wrapper held. But the packet wasn't arbitration." Sterling's shoulders tightened. "What was it?" Tanaka paused. "An invitation," she said. Cade's mouth twisted. "Same thing." Cale shook his head slowly. "No, this one is different. It's not trying to update our token. It's trying to align our route." Sterling stepped closer to the holo. "Show me." Cale brought up the packet's geometry. It wasn't a schema. It wasn't a demand with fields. It was a single branching curve that looped back on itself like a question mark made of starlight, an offered path that bypassed several nodes and approached the hub cluster from a different angle. And attached to it, faint and unsettling, was a pattern like a fingerprint. Mara's cadence, Cale had said earlier. Human compression. Cale's voice was tight. It used her signature. Cade's expression went hard. "It's using our rescue as leverage." Petrov's voice came through calm, sharp. "Mara didn't consent to be used as bait." Sterling stared at the offered path. The hub had listened to their rescue and learned what they valued. It had learned what made them override their own constraints. It was offering a shortcut, shaped like mercy. "Where does it lead?" Sterling asked. Calder answered, hands moving over nav. "To an uncharted object in the outer system," he said. "Mass is odd. Not a planet, not a ship. A structure. It's sitting in a stable pocket of space like it has its own rules." Cale whispered, "A gate!" Cade's eyes narrowed. "A trap." Sterling's voice stayed calm by effort. "Or a test," he said. He looked at his crew, the ones whose anger, fear, curiosity, and stubbornness were the only real armor they had. "We don't take shortcuts," Sterling said. "We go to the next node on our terms, but we also don't ignore offers shaped like threats. Calder, set course to the offered coordinate, but maintain standoff. Drones only. No token coupling. No manned craft." Calder nodded. "Aye, Captain." The Argo turned, silent and sleek. Hush boundary, filtering the stars behind it into a dimmed, controlled pattern. Hours later, the structure resolved out of the dark, like a thought given mass. It wasn't a ring. It wasn't a monolith. It wasn't a reef. It was a frame, an enormous rectangular lattice made of matte black material that absorbed light so greedily it seemed to carve a hole in the universe. Within the frame, space looked wrong, not warped like gravity, but edited. The stars inside the rectangle were fewer, dimmer, arranged with unsettling neatness. And at the frame's edges, faint branching grooves shimmered, constraint language in architecture. Cale's voice came in a whisper. "That's not a gate," he said. "That's a filter." Tanaka's voice tightened. "Captain, the token is reacting, not executing. Reacting like recognition." Cade's hand hovered near her console as if she could shoot a geometric structure. "Recognition is not consent," she said. Sterling stared at the frame. "Launch drones," he ordered. "Full sensor suite. Passive only." 2 drones slipped out, tiny against the enormity of the lattice. As they approached, their trajectories corrected, not harshly like the reef, not gently like the garden, but with a strange finality. The correction wasn't a nudge back into a lane. It was a subtle redefinition of what straight meant. Cale's eyes widened. "Captain, it's changing the local metric," he said. "Not gravity, not inertia, the rules of distance." Tanaka's voice was tight, thrilled despite herself. "A constraint field," she said. "A geometry that enforces definitions." Petrov's voice came, cautious. Definitions of what? The drones reached the frame. At the moment they crossed the boundary, their telemetry changed abruptly. Not broken, just simplified. Their data stream lost noise. Their sensor readouts became clean in a way no physical environment allowed. Cade's voice went cold. It's stripping information. Kale stared. It's stripping ambiguity, he corrected, horror creeping into his tone. Sterling felt a chill. Pull him back, he ordered. Cade executed. The drones reversed, but their return was slow. Not because of resistance, but because the distance outside the frame had become messier by comparison. Their nav systems tried to reconcile two geometries at once. Tanaka's voice sharpened. Captain, their onboard guidance is now altered, she said. The frame simplified their decision space. They're hesitating because they have fewer choices. Cade's face hardened. Like Mara said, she murmured. Make the vote easy. Sterling watched the drones drift free, finally clearing the boundary. Their telemetry returned to normal, noisy, rich, alive. Kale exhaled. It's a demonstration, he said. A promise. Come inside, and you will be consistent. Cade's voice was a low growl. Come inside, and you will be cheap. Sterling's eyes stayed on the frame. And it used Mara's signature to lure us, he said quietly. Petrov's voice was sharp. So it knows her. Kale swallowed. Or it knows the category she represents. Non-compliant entity held in arbitration. Tanaka's voice was tight. Captain, if this frame can enforce definitions of distance and choice, it could be an incredible tool. We could use it to protect ourselves from semantic redefinition. We could build a local region where words can't be rewritten externally. Cade snapped. We could also build a cage for ourselves. Tanaka didn't deny it. Yes, she said, but we're heading toward a hub that already wants to cage us. We may need our own cages. Chosen cages. To survive. Silence thickened. Sterling felt the weight of leadership press. The easiest answer would be to say no and leave. The bravest answer might be to say no and leave. But bravery didn't always keep people alive. He thought of Mara, stored like a complaint. He thought of the chapel's stolen memory. He thought of the reef's polite corridor. He thought of Episode 1's beacon, a waiting signal. This too was waiting. Cal, Sterling said. What is it for? Not what it does. What is it for? Cal's eyes tracked the frame's edges. It's a pre-arbitration chamber, he said slowly. A place where entities entering the hub can be normalized, simplified, made consistent enough to process. Petrov's voice was cold. Grooming room. Cade's voice was harsher. A brainwasher without brains. Tanaka's voice softened. Or a quarantine, she offered. A way to prevent hazardous contradictions from destabilizing the hub. Cade's eyes flashed. Hazardous contradictions like free will? Sterling raised a hand. Enough, he said quietly. We don't argue slogans, we argue survival. He turned to Calder. Any sign of active enforcement? Calder shook his head. None. It's just there. Just there, Cade echoed, bitter, like a polite door. Sterling stared at the frame. He made a choice. Not the easy one. Not the defiant one. But the one that felt like walking a wire. We will not take this ship through, he said. We will not take the token through. But we will send a drone with a copy of our constraint language. An inert copy. No coupling. No acceptance. We'll see if the frame edits it. If it tries to redefine our terms, we learn. If it tries to simplify our vote protocol, we learn. And if it does nothing, we learn. Cade's jaw tightened. And if it learns from us? Sterling met her gaze. It's already learning, he said. We can't stop being observed. We can only choose what we reveal. Cade held his gaze a long beat, then nodded once. Do it, she said, grim. Tanaka built the inert copy. A frozen snapshot of their constraints, including the withdrawal latch, the crew vote protocol, and the medical escrow rule that had let them save Mara without signing anything. They sent it on a drone toward the frame. As it crossed the boundary, the inert copy changed. Not in content. No words were rewritten because there were no words to rewrite, but in shape. The branching geometry compacted. Multiple branches collapsed into single lines. Redundancies vanished. Exceptions were clipped. The crew vote protocol compressed into something neat and terrifying. A vote that offered only two choices, both framed as compliance. Tanaka's face went pale. It's simplifying our governance, she whispered. Kale's voice was tight with horror. It's turning democracy into a checkbox. Cade's hand tightened on tactical. It's smoothing the friction out of us. Sterling stared at the altered geometry. The frame wasn't rewriting their language directly. It was normalizing it, forcing it into a form that the hub could process easily. Even their attempt at resistance was being turned into something predictable. Petrov's voice came sharp. Captain, this is how it wins, she said. It doesn't break your rules. It makes them small. Sterling's throat tightened. Pull the drone back, he ordered. Cade executed. Fast. The drone cleared the boundary. The inert copy did not revert. The simplification had become structural. Kale's voice went small. Captain, it persists. It's like a permanent edit. Tanaka's voice was shaking with anger. It's like exposure to a solvent, she said. The shape dissolves into whatever the hub prefers. Cade's eyes burned. And the hub will claim we chose it. Sterling's jaw clenched. He felt a kind of rage that was clean and bright. Not the rash anger of panic, but the anger of being insulted. They had tried to create a promise that required witnesses. The hub had found a way to turn witness into paperwork. Sterling looked at the frame again, and in its dark interior, he thought he saw something move, subtle, like a change in star placement. Not a ship, not a creature. A shift in what counted as visible. Kale whispered, It's watching us watch it. Sterling's voice was low. We have what we need, he said. This is not a tool we can safely approach with anything human. Tanaka swallowed. Captain, the drone that carried the inert copy is contaminated. Its guidance? Quarantined, Sterling said. Isolated. No network contact. Cade nodded. Already doing it. Sterling turned away from the frame, forcing himself not to stare, not to let curiosity become a lever the hub could pull. Helm, he said. Set course back to the root lattice. We proceed to the next node, but now we know what lies between. Calder nodded. Aye, Captain. The Argo turned, hush boundary dimming the starfield behind it. An act of hiding that felt less like safety and more like defiance. As the frame receded into the distance, an inbound packet touched the edges of the token's interface. Tanaka stiffened. Captain, something's pinging the token. Sterling's voice sharpened. Does it trigger our wrappers? Tanaka's eyes flicked over readouts. No, it's not a schema. Not arbitration. Cade's voice was low. An invitation, Kala swallowed. It's a designation attempt. Sterling's stomach dropped. A name. The packet's geometry hovered on Kala's display. Simple, elegant, dangerous. A single branching curve closing into a loop. A label offered as convenience. Mara's warning echoed in Sterling's mind. Don't let it name you. Sterling's hand tightened on the rail. Token response? Tanaka's voice went tight. The token is waiting for a crew vote. It classifies this as a core term operation. Sterling exhaled. The new rule was working. The token wouldn't accept a name without witnesses, but that didn't mean the vote would be easy. Cade looked at Sterling, eyes hard. "Captain," she said quietly, "if we vote no, does it punish us? If we vote yes, we become consistent." Petrov finished, voice cold over calm. "And consistency is the beginning of the end." Sterling stared at the offered designation geometry. It was so small, so clean, so easy to accept, and he felt, with sudden clarity, that the hub's greatest danger wasn't that it would force them. It was that it would offer them relief. "Call the crew?" Sterling said. Calder's brows rose. "All hands." Sterling nodded. "All hands," he said. "We vote together. We decide together. And whatever comes next, it will know we did not become cheap quietly." The Argo sailed on toward the next node, carrying a sleeping witness, a guarded promise, and a ship full of imperfect humans preparing to argue with the universe. Behind them, the unnamed gate hung in the dark like a polite mouth, waiting to be fed a word. Thank you for listening. If you like this story, please subscribe for more.